Welcome to the Flex Rental Solutions webinar. Today we're going to be talking about some strategies in setting up your inventory. We're going to be covering some strategies with the inventory tree. We're also going to be looking at some inventory models that you can set up, including virtual packages, container items, and a few other items, just some best practices and things like that that I have seen other customers set up, and especially some ideas that we maybe got over this last weekend as we had our Flex user conference, and also as we met with some customers at LDI. We're always amazed at the kind of ideas that we learn from different customers and how they set up their inventory. So we always like to share some of those ideas as a benefit for the rest of our customers. First of all, I just want to start by talking about some of the concepts of the inventory tree. So if you need to learn how to build the inventory tree fully, we have some videos on that. But just as a quick primer, if you right-click on any inventory tree group, then go to the inventory group manager, that's where you can create new groups and child groups, etc. What I want to talk about is just some of the ways that I've seen other customers organize their inventory tree and the reasons why that's been helpful to them. Let's start with a new quote, because I want to look at the idea of adding items to a quote and the different ways that the inventory tree can affect the way that things are added to a quote. So most of you are probably familiar with the concept of the inventory tree adding subtotals to a quote when you're building the quote in auto sort mode. For those of you who aren't as familiar with that, let's show how that works. We have three different sort modes in a quote or any other element that you happen to be building. We have auto, insert, and add. When you're using the auto sort mode and then you begin adding inventory to a quote, you'll notice that the items that you put on a quote will add into a specific subtotal that's based on the parent inventory group that item comes from. And so that's one of the first best practices that I always like to share with our customers, is to organize your inventory tree in a way that auto sort mode can be useful for you when you're building a quote. So what I mean by that is you might want to put your bigger items at the top of the inventory tree, like audio, video, lighting, etc. And then some of your smaller items, shipping cases, show accessories, maybe drape, things like that, near the bottom. Of course, that will vary depending on what kind of jobs your company typically does. If you do audio-visual production, you might want to see these kind of things near the top. If you're more of a scenic or decor company, then you might have scenic, drape, and furniture near the top, and then your smaller add-on audio-video type items near the bottom. To change the order of your inventory tree, you're just going to drag and drop, and then you'll be asked, are you trying to move that into or inside of the folder you dropped it onto, above or below? I don't want to move it, so I'll just hit cancel. But notice what happens if I try to add something from my audio folder, because that is the top group in my inventory tree. It doesn't really matter where I try to drop it onto a quote. It's always going to add above any other group because it's the top group. And if I try to add any other items, it will just automatically add to that subtotal as well. So that's the first and most basic strategy, is just organizing your inventory tree in a way that will sort the items based on how you want them to appear on a quote for your customer to see. Further down that, you might even organize your subgroups based on how you want the items to appear within the parent inventory, the parent subtotal. So for example, because my audio cable appears below my speakers in the inventory tree, when I drag and drop any anything from the audio cable subgroup, it will appear below anything from the speakers group, or from the mixers group, or the amplifiers and microphones group, etc. So if I want my audio stands to appear right above microphones, then I would just move that group, or right above amplifiers, either way. So now that will appear over any other item that appears in these child inventory groups. So you can get really creative and strategic in the way that you organize these inventory groups, because that's the way your customer is going to see the items when you're in that auto sort mode. Now, of course, you could use insert sort mode, and that just lets you drag and drop things wherever you want on a quote. But when you're using that auto sort mode, then you definitely have that ability to automatically create these subtotals and organize the items based on the order in the tree. While we're here looking at the inventory tree and some of the ways that I've seen our other customers organize it, one strategy that I see pretty often is utilizing packages and subrentals as child groups in the parent inventory group. Now again, I'm not going to say that this is the correct way to do it. There's really no wrong or right way to do it. I just want to show you what I've seen a lot of our customers do and explain why they do it the way that they do it. So you could create a parent inventory group that's called subrentals or something like that. And all of the items that appear in that subrentals group are items that you don't own, but are items that you frequently subrent, and you still want to be able to put them on a quote so that you're charging your customer for them. Now remember, with this auto sort mode turned on, you're automatically going to get a subtotal based on the name of the parent inventory group. So imagine if you have a parent inventory group called packages, and you drag and drop something onto a quote from that packages group, you're going to get a subtotal called packages. Or if I have a parent inventory group called subrentals, then drag and drop an item from that group onto a quote, I'm going to have a subtotal called subrentals. So to get around that, what I've seen a lot of our customers do is just put a packages or subrentals group into each parent inventory group. So for audio, I have packages and subrentals. For video, I have packages and subrentals. And I should have the same for my lighting. Looks like I don't have a packages created yet, but I do have my subrentals built here. And again, these are all just items that you don't own, but you still want to be able to put on a quote and charge a customer. And so now if I put, oh, and it looks like I have that in the wrong group. Let's move that down to my video subrentals. So now if I put this 30K projector, which is something that I don't own but always subrent, onto a quote, then what I see is the customer still sees it as a rental that they have to pay for, and I could put in a default pricing. And I also see a conflict just telling me that I don't own any quantity of that item, so I immediately have to subrent it. And that creates a rental PO for me. But the customer still sees that as just a straight rental with a charge. They don't even have to know that I'm subrenting that projector. Same idea with packages. I might have speaker packages, wireless mic packages, etc. And when I put those on a quote, I don't necessarily want them to show up as in a subtotal called packages. I want them to show up in a subtotal for whatever group they actually belong to, like audio. So that's why I've put packages and subrentals as child groups to the parent of audio, so I can retain those subtotals when I'm in auto sort mode. Now granted, if you're using insert or add mode, then that doesn't really matter because you can drag and drop those items wherever you want. So you might create a custom subtotal and then use insert sort mode, but a lot of people like keeping that convenience of auto sort mode so that they can get those subtotals automatically built. While we're talking about virtual items, let's look at a few of those and some ideas that I've seen other customers set up. So one of the basic versions of a virtual package would just be something like this, like a speaker package, or maybe something like a screen package or a projector package or something like that. Something that might just represent a single item with the accessories that need to go with it. So a Mackie speaker package, we'll notice, is built as a virtual package. And that gives me a contents tab here on the inventory model page where I can put all of the different items that are included in that speaker package. So as you can see, I've started building this. I have 4 Mackies, 4 stands. It also goes with 2 shipping cases because I also want to include those on my pull sheet for weights and things like that. But let's add a few other items in there as well. Let's say that this package also goes with a certain amount of XLR cable. And maybe it also goes with a mixer. So when I add Mackie speaker package to a quote, it will automatically add all of those items as child line items, much like what happened with my Shure wireless mic package. If we open that item and reference the contents, I have all the contents that need to be included to create a single wireless mic package, and that's what it looks like on the quote. Let's look at the speaker package again for a second and think of a couple different ways that you could build this. Number one, let's think about the items that absolutely have to be included in a speaker package. To me, that would be the speakers themselves, the stands, and the shipping case. Everything else technically can change. I don't have to send 50-foot XLRs. I don't have to send 25s. Maybe I only want to send 100-footers and maybe some 10-footers. I don't have to send this particular mixer. Maybe I don't even need a mixer at all. Maybe I'm just going to plug an iPod directly into the speaker and just loop them through and just play music. So the idea being, maybe these aren't contents that automatically add with the speaker package every single time. So what we could do there is actually, let's first remove these items. Keep the items that are a must-have for that package. And then as suggestions, add all of those different items that I could potentially send. So maybe 10-foot XLR, 100-foot XLR, and you could put any quantity you want. I'm just adding in 4s. All the different lengths of XLR, and then maybe several different options for a mixer. So we could do our Mackie and Yamaha 12 channels, a Yamaha 16 channel, and then I might even suggest different types of microphones too. So maybe I'll put on my SM58, SM57, and why not, we'll put the betas in there as well. Again, these are all just suggestions, and you'll see what this looks like in a minute when I add this to a quote. I can also put in packages into suggestions. So I could take this wireless mic package and have that be a suggestion for this package as well. So packages can be contents or suggestions of other packages. Let's go over to our quote and let's add that Mackie speaker package now. In fact, let's delete this subtotal just so we can start clean. I'm still in auto sort mode, so when I put this on a quote, it will give me an audio subtotal. But what you'll see that happens is it automatically adds the contents that are supposed to go with it. And it looks like I'll have to take that shipping case off of the contents of the speaker itself so it doesn't double up like that. But now I have the ability to come in here and choose what's going to go with that particular speaker package. Because it might depend on where I'm setting it up, what the customer requested. Maybe we're doing the speaker spread apart pretty far, so I want to send 7 or 8 100-foot cables, some 25s just to do some patching, and maybe some 10s for the wireless mic, things like that. Maybe I want the 16 channel for this particular job, and then maybe I want 2 wireless mic packages and then a backup SM58 handheld. I can also choose how are these going to add when I put these as suggestions to the speaker package. Because all the contents that always go with it add as a child. You notice that about how there's the plus and minus little icon, and anything that's indented to the right of the package is considered a child. Right now, all of these are going to add as the next sibling, which basically means it's going to add as the next line item. It will be indented at the same as the speaker package. But if you want that to be able to be part of the package itself and show as a child, you could change that to say add as a child. Now you could probably see that this is a little bit cumbersome. It's not really fast to have to go through and change each of these to be added as a child. Maybe I want them to be included in the price as well, and I would have to go through and click each checkbox. So that's actually taking more time than I would really want it to. So one thing that you can do is actually assign different suggestion types to those suggestions within the speaker package here, so that anytime I add this item as a suggestion from this package, then it will automatically default to whatever the suggestion type says. So what I mean by that is, if we look at our suggestion types on our inventory menu, I have different suggestion types that say I want that to add as the next sibling. I don't want it to be included in the price. It's required, yes or no. So I could create a new suggestion type, and you could create as many of these as you want. You might get very specific in terms of this suggestion type is only applicable to the Mackie speaker package. So I might say it's Mackie speaker package cable. I want it to be included in the price, and I want it to add as a child. And it's not required. I might create another suggestion type that is Mackie speaker package mixers. And same idea. And then the last one, Mackie speaker package mics. Included in the price, add as child. Let's go back to my Mackie speaker package, and I'm going to have to reload that because I just created some new suggestion types, and Flex just needs to load those in the background. And if I go back to my suggestions, I can now start assigning each of these to a specific suggestion type. And so let's add a few of these, and I'll show you what that looks like from a quoting perspective. As we get down this list, you might start already be asking yourself the question, well, if all of these are included in the price, what if I have something that is a little bit more expensive? And you could probably see what I'm talking about if you look at that wireless mic package. Maybe I rent out these handheld mics at just $5 or $10 a piece, and so I just kind of absorb that into the price of the package. So maybe I just always charge $300 or $350 for that speaker package, and I just tell myself that just includes whatever microphone I choose. But I might charge $150 or $200 for this wireless mic package. Do I want that to be included in the price? That's really up to you. So whether or not you actually assign that to a suggestion type that includes that item in the price is up to you. I'll leave mine as not, and then click Update. Let's go back to our quote. And again, we'll delete this and let's add it again just so we can see the difference in the changes that we just made. So we add the speaker package. The contents automatically add, but now my suggestions pop up, and look, number 1, I have a different tab for each suggestion type. So that keeps things a little bit more organized. And I can click through and choose which ones I'm going to send. But you'll also notice that they're all automatically defaulting to add as child and be included in the price based on the suggestion type settings. And then the one item that I didn't include in a suggestion type just shows up on its own. So that's the power of using suggestions and suggestion types. I see a question in the chat room about what does the required mean in suggestion types. Let's look at an example of that really quick with maybe a projector. So if we pull up our Barco 20K projector, you'll notice, well, I haven't set it up yet, but we have as suggestions any of the lenses that could potentially work with that projector. I only have one set up, but you might have a short throw, medium throw, long throw, all of which are suggestions for that projector. Then I might have a suggestion type that I call lens required or something like that. Included in the price, probably not, because a lens could, depending on the type of lens, be between 100 or 500 or even more. You could choose if it adds as a child or not. I like to add it as a child just so I know that that lens is supposed to go with that parent projector. And then required, yes. So first let's reload our 20K projector item, go back to the suggestions tab. And I'm going to add as a suggestion type that new lens required. And what this looks like on a quote now, when I add the 20K projector, it's going to pop up the suggestions window, and since this is a required suggestion type, that means I have to choose at least one of the items from that suggestion type. If I try to exit, it gives me a warning that says you must select at least one option. I could still close this dialog, but now I get a cogwheel that's red telling me that there's an unfulfilled suggestion for that item. And until I choose it, that cogwheel doesn't go back to normal. So that's how the required setting works for suggestion types. Let me show you a quick example of another thing that I've seen a lot of our customers use with types. And that would be for what we like to call our builder type packages. So for example, I might create a new package. Let's go new inventory item. I might call this breakout room builder or something like that. I'm not going to set it up as a virtual package, I'll just set it up as a virtual model. And that means that there aren't necessarily going to be contents that go with this virtual item. This virtual item is made up just out of suggestions. So in a breakout room, what might I send out to be included in that? Well, I might have any number of these different types of mixers. I might have all of the different speakers that could be in a breakout room. So my JBLs, Mackeys. Notice I'm not putting any quantities. I'm just leaving the quantity as 1. I'll choose the quantity when I'm on the suggestions window. And so you could put all the different items that could potentially be part of a breakout room. This could be a list of 100, 200 different items. And then if you assign those to suggestion type, so this might be mixers suggestion type. This would be speakers suggestion type. When I add that breakout room builder to a quote, then all those suggestion types will be organized into different tabs. So I can go through and first choose mixers, then choose speakers, then choose microphones, etc. Then choose projectors and screens. So that's the power in using those suggestion types. I won't set up the suggestion types for this one because that would take about 20 or 30 minutes to go through the whole process. But I think you get the idea just based on the examples we've shown already. We don't have too much time to go through shipping cases and containers. I have about 4 or 5 other YouTube videos that go over how you can set up shipping case and container type items, but just as an overview, if we click Edit Inventory Item, this is set up as serialized storage, which means this case is serialized, so I have a separate barcode for each case that I own. And then also each case can have speakers and other accessories scanned into it. So the way that this case is built physically is reflected in Flex so that you know exactly what's inside of there. So I'm just going to do a virtual scan. I don't recommend doing it this way. I just don't have a barcode scanner set up at my station right now. But typically you would scan the barcodes of the speakers that are inside of this case when you're in this content builder mode. And now it shows barcode 436 and 435 is inside of this container right now. And then when I scan this barcode out to a job, it automatically scans all of its contents. So again, we've done a few best practice series on packages and containers like this, so you can find that on our YouTube page, just some older webinars, and find out some of the best ways to build up these shipping cases and containers. The idea behind all of this, though, is what I always like to call the upstairs versus downstairs mentality, because the company that I used to work for, all of the account managers and the people who were building quotes were upstairs, and then we were all downstairs in the warehouse. A lot of these different ideas with using virtual packages and containers and things like that kind of plays into the idea of being able to set up quotes in a way that's easy for your sales staff. So for example, the sales staff might find it much easier to just do Mackie speaker package, choose some suggestions, and then they have their whole speaker system built as opposed to having to drag and drop each item individually onto a quote. Even down to more complex virtual type items like a breakout room builder, where all I have to do is drag and drop that onto a quote, and then I'm essentially building an entire quote just out of suggestions. Some people find that to be a lot faster and more useful than dragging and dropping each individual item. So that really helps with your sales side. But then a lot of these packages, like your wireless mic package and other things, once you've put in the contents that absolutely have to go with this package, that kind of takes away some level of error when you're building quotes too. Because what if a sales representative wants a wireless mic package on a quote? If they have to build that themselves, they might go in here and say, okay, well, I need search inventory, I need wireless. If this item didn't exist, they might just drag and drop the handheld microphone, the body pack transmitter, and just think, okay, I'm going to be getting a wireless mic package now, which is not the case. All they're going to get is the microphone and the body pack now. They're not going to get the receiver or any of the clip-on mics that they might need or antennas or anything like that. So that's the idea behind having something like a wireless mic package. Your sales staff might find it much easier to build the quote with just a single drag and drop, and everything automatically gets built. And then when you get to the point of building or creating a pull sheet, the pull sheet is going to have all of those different items and contents that were included in those virtual packages. So from a warehouse perspective, you're getting an accurate listing of everything that should be pulled. So that's really the last thing that I like to mention and just kind of recommend to you is that as you're building your inventory and thinking of these strategies and how to build your tree and what kind of virtual items you create, just keep in mind that all of the different items that you create and the way that you build them are going to have implications for both the salespeople who are building quotes and the people in the warehouse who have to pull the items. Find a way to build these items in such a way that both sides are benefited, and so that you can work together and reduce the level of error when you're building quotes and when you have to pull jobs from a pull sheet. So we really just kind of scratched the surface on some strategies on building your inventory. Again, I have some other webinars and old YouTube videos that address a lot of these same topics and go into even greater detail. So if you want to find some more about building virtual packages, I do have a webinar on that has about 4 or 5 other examples of things that you can build in your system. And like I said, I have a few other webinars that have to do with shipping containers, free pick containers, and things like that. If you want to get into more detail about those and how those are built and some of the best practices in doing that. If you have any questions or strategies that you would like to share, I always recommend that people go to our forum. That's just at forum.flexrentalsolutions.com. We have just over 2,000 members on the forum, all Flex users, who will just discuss different ways to use Flex, ask any questions about things that they might be trying to set up, get some implementation help, and things like that. If you have questions that are more technical in nature, then you can email support@flexrentalsolutions.com.